Hey everyone, in this episode, we are going to talk about how leaders could step up and a few things they can do today to continue to expand their lives. Changemakers, what is going on everyone? Hope you are all having an amazing day, an amazing night, wherever you are tuning into this. So we are gonna play you an interview that I did with my good friend and really great guy all around, but really an expert in leadership. And there's a lot of people that talk about personal development and mindset and high performance, but Shannon is one of those guys that every time the topic gets brought up, I remember breakthroughs that we've had in our own personal conversations. And this interview was actually recorded live on my Facebook page. So if you're not following me there, make sure to go over to facebook.com/thejwong. I think that's the official page, or you can go to the Legacy Driven Entrepreneurs group and you can get access to the interviews when we do them live. And that is an experiment that we've been testing, and it's just a way for us to get the most use of the content as well as the interview. Shannon came on the podcast, I think it was episode 129, and he talked about the future of leadership. This time he wrote a brand new book called Expand, and it's literally some of the best stuff that he's put together. It's his life's work in one book, and I wanted to pick his brain a little bit and do it with you. And we did a bit of Q&A as well, so it's always fun to do these types of live interviews. But if you want to take your leadership to the next level, if you want to be a great change maker, this is the interview for you. So I hope you enjoy it. And without any more delays, oh, one last thing. Whether you're watching this on YouTube or whether you're listening to this on any of the iTunes or whatever station you're listening to this on, would really appreciate if you leave us a rating and review. If you've gotten any value out of this, that's a way that you can be able to give back. And I so appreciate you guys for always being here, for learning with us, for building your own legacy. So excited for this. And this is our little mini setup over here. But I will, without any more delays, here is the interview with my man, Shannon Graham. One, I like the look. Does this show you the countdown as well?
I guess so.
No.
No, it doesn't actually.
Oh, it doesn't. Okay. So I'm pretty sure we are live, and we're gonna just wait on a few different minutes here just before we actually dive in. But Shannon, nice seeing you, brother. It's always always a pleasure, getting a chance to hang out with you. And hey, I wanted to tell you this little fun fact.
Cool.
I'd never, actually very rarely, I shouldn't start saying never, because now we've almost had like 200 something episodes, right, on the podcast. And I've literally invited, I think like 4 people that have ever come on twice.
Oh, wow.
So this is like round 2 for you. So you've made it in the top 5, man.
Wow, beautiful. I'm honored.
Yeah. So, hey, for people that are just tuning in, and I see that we have a couple people already. Tori, nice seeing you here. Just let us know in the comments where you're from. Let us, comment that you're here, that you can hear us, you can see us. We're going to start probably in about a minute. But Shannon, since you've been on the podcast, one of my favorite episodes actually was with you last time. I hope you remember, we talked about the future of leadership, and we had some amazing I think we got a mini interruption. So hopefully Shannon's able to come back and join us, or else it might be a little awkward. So Shannon, let us know whenever you can make it back. But you really want to pay attention in this interview, because Shannon's one of the few people that every single time that I talk with him, he is able to really change the way that I think. You're back, Shannon.
Yeah, can you see me?
Yeah, we can see you.
Okay.
I was just saying that you're one of the only people I know that every single time I chat with you, you not just like, it's not like you're sharing new tactics per se. It's not necessarily like what's the new market trend. That's not necessarily it. But you have a way of putting together some of your concepts and ways of elevating my own thinking, right? Yeah. And I know you've done such amazing work. Maybe to give everyone just that sense of the level that we're dealing with. I mean, Shannon has worked with some amazing entrepreneurs, mostly through, from what I see, like a referral basis. Because these are individuals that are literally movers and shakers in their own industry. They're attempting to solve problems that, don't necessarily have an answer, right? And Shannon is the coach that it helps them create that mental edge. And so, Shannon, why don't you give us, for those of you that are maybe not so familiar with you, I know we went through your story in the last episode, give us maybe a 30,000 foot overview of some of the work that you've been doing in the last decade or so.
Yeah. Well, it starts with my fascination with people. And, I just believe that even as far as we are in humanity, we still have no idea what the peak of human potential is. And so if that's true, then what we do know is that whatever we're demonstrating right now is just a glimpse of what we're really what's really possible for us. And so when I work with people, I'm essentially making a bet. It's a hedge. I'm hedging a bet. And the bet is, I bet that if two people who believe that the impossible is possible come together, that they can expand and go beyond where they've been and kind of who they are and what they are to something different, to something bigger, to something bolder. And every time I have engaged in that bet, I've won, because I believe, human potentiality is larger than what we can even imagine that it is. So if two people are just willing to go there, then in my opinion, there's nothing that you can't take on. And so again, just time after time, that has been proven to me to be the case, to be the truth.
I love this, and I know this is true because for those of you that maybe want to dive a little deeper into Shannon's story, I mean, in our first episode, you shared with us, stories of, having to sleep on like an old school bus. I think that was one of the stories, and being homeless. I think during your time in New York, and this is before you started coaching. Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. And that contrast of how you started coaching, how you started helping people. So if you guys want to learn a little more about, Shannon's backstory, feel free to dive into that episode. But, Shannon, I know you just recently, or I think, is it next week? You're coming out with this new book?
Next week.
So let me get the title here, because it's Expand. And I love the tagline. It says, leadership that moves, fulfills, and ultimately changes the world.
That's right.
And so we'll walk us a little back. What was the inspiration, for you in creating this book, and why now?
Well, great questions. I kind of have a scary talent for being able to see things in a very broad perspective. And I believe it's one of the tools that I have that helps me the most in my career. And when I use that gift to look at leadership, I noticed some kind of very glaringly obvious challenges within the leadership world. And so I wrote the book because of that. And I also wrote the book because I also believe that we are at a very real tipping point in our world, where the next 10, 20, 30, 50 years will drastically determine the fate of the world and the people that are on it. So I believe we're at this very real tipping point of either a utopian world or a dystopian world.
Interesting.
And what we do today will make a huge difference tomorrow, next year, 10 years from now, 30 years from now, 1,000 years from now.
Yeah.
And because we're at such a pivotal stage, I believe it's really important to do everything possible to tip the scales towards utopia, because the opposite is just very kind of grim and dark and sad, really.
Yeah.
So I believe we have a responsibility to do everything we can to push that probability towards the most beautiful outcome.
Right. And really in creating the world that we want to be living in.
That's right. That's right. Here's a case in point. Many people are thinking about space terraforming, essentially moving the population of Earth is growing and growing and growing, and Earth isn't getting any bigger.
Yeah.
So the space is becoming less and less and less. And we are simultaneously removing from the Earth faster than the Earth can replenish. So there's this very real conversation of, well, we're just going to have to move. Like the Earth is going to get so fucked up, and there's going to be so many people that we're either going to go live on Mars or live on the moon or go live somewhere else.
Right.
That's called a parasite. A parasite lives on its host until the host dies or is no longer excellent for it to live on, and then it moves and goes somewhere else. I believe that the peak of the human existence is far beyond a parasite. And so if that's true, then we get to figure out, how do we get to live here? How do we get to live in harmony with the planet? And if we do go and live somewhere else, it's because we want to, not because we have to.
I love that. And I hope people that are in our group, the Legacy Driven Entrepreneurs group, and people that listen to the podcast or watching this, I hope you understand why I had to bring Shannon on, because we wanted a deep dive into this exact topic of modern day leadership, of how people could not just become better leaders, but Shannon, as you taught me, someone that you could step into. You know what I mean? That having that identity. So instead of maybe going and jumping into the how to maybe be better as a leader, what do you think are maybe some misconceptions, right? Because you talk about some of the, we're in this kind of delicate phase of humanity, right? What do you think are maybe some of the top misconceptions that people have, whether they're running businesses, whether they're trying to create the life that they want, and they're leaders in their homes or in their communities? What are the misconceptions for leadership, and as you see it?
Sure. Well, you said something that's really important. You said whether they're leaders in their homes or their communities or their business.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is that every single person is a leader. Some people say some people are followers and some people are leaders. No, sure. Everyone is a leader because everyone has their own life. So at the end of the day, even if you are simply just the leader of yourself, that makes a difference. You are a leader. You cannot escape being a leader. The only difference is scale. Are you the leader of your own life? Are you the leader of your household? Are you the leader of a community, of a global organization? It's just scale, but you are a leader either way.
Yeah.
And so there is this interesting misconception in the leadership world that leadership requires sacrifice. And I actually believe that that's true, but over the years, leadership has become an institution. It has become a box that we put ourselves in, and that box will only allow us to grow so much, rather than a launching pad for us to go to go as far as we want. And so initially, leadership was about sacrifice, meaning like you were willing to sacrifice yourself for the greater good.
Right.
Like if a grenade comes along, that you jump on it because that's the noble, that is the honorable thing to do.
Sure.
In this day and age, we're not literally chucking grenades at each other. And so this idea of sacrifice has been misconstrued, and we believe that we need to sacrifice things like our family, our health, our relationships, very often even our happiness and fulfillment for the greater good.
Right.
And you see that a lot in just family households. You see fathers that sacrifice a lot for their family, and they don't have time for their kids, and they don't have time for their spouse, and they don't have time for themselves. You see this a lot even with mothers that give everything to their family and have nothing left for themselves.
Yeah.
It's this glorified martyrism. It's this glorified sacrificial lamb that we think it's so noble to sacrifice ourselves when it's unnecessary, right? If a literal grenade comes across and you jump on it, that's a hero. But if you're sacrificing things that don't need to be sacrificed, then that's just unnecessary. That's called suffering. Suffering is unnecessary pain. It's unnecessary pain. Because again, what is the peak of human potential? We have no idea. But is it safe to assume that if the peak of human potential is that either the majority of things or everything we currently think is impossible is possible, if that's true, then we probably don't need to be sacrificing all the things that we have been sacrificing. We probably can figure out how to be a great husband, a great wife, a great businessman, a great community leader, a great business leader without having to sacrifice those things. And I would even take it a step further to say, this is not my opinion, from my observation of working with people over the last 5 years, and getting them to a place where they realize they don't have to sacrifice their happiness, they don't have to sacrifice their relationships or their health, that actually by including those things, it makes them a better leader. Because if you have followers, and followers is synonymous with like family members or friends or employees or fill in the blank, right?
Yeah.
Ultimately, a leader is responsible for creating more leaders. That's what a good leader does. A good leader does not create followers, right?
Yeah, I love it.
A good leader exemplifies what it means to be a leader and imparts that onto their people, whether that's their family, their friends, their community, or their organization.
Yeah.
So if you think about it, here's where we prove it. Prove it, Shannon. It's easy. Globally, employee happiness is 13%. Think about that. Let that sink in. Globally,
that's crazy.
Employee happiness is 13%. Now, if an employee is a reflection of the leader, then what does that say about the leadership?
It's not very good.
It's not very good. If employees are not happy, if it's 13%, then is it safe to say that the majority of leaders are not happy? Of course, because happy, fulfilled, full, complete leaders create happy, fulfilled, full families, communities, organizations, period. Yeah. You can't not. You ever get in the room with someone who's just like super happy? You ever get next to someone like that?
Right. Yeah.
It's infectious. You can't not.
Right? The energy is right there. It's in the room, right? You feel it.
Same thing.
Yeah.
You cannot have an excellent organization and have a non-excellent leader. It's just not possible. The employees are all just a reflection. If you look at family dynamics, if a spouse or a son or a daughter is struggling, it usually has something to do with one of the parents very often.
Yeah.
And so a company, a family, a community can only be as good as the leader. So this book is really about how do we as individuals become more expanded? How do we begin to include the things that we thought we needed to exclude?
Yeah.
So that we can be more whole, so that we can be more complete, and so that we can actually give from a place of overflow rather than a place of lack.
Yeah. And I love that point specifically because I remember in the last interview, that was a huge thing that people were even writing back and quoting you on was that, you had that example of when you give from an empty cup, right? And there's all that guilt, right. and everybody that's watching this, I don't know if you guys can let us know in the comments, like, how do you feel personally, right? When you give and whether I think you had an example with money or what have you, reluctantly give anything, right? Time, energy, money. It doesn't really sit well with you because you also have an empty cup, right? And so the idea of it's not about trying to give and then figure it out after. it's about coming from a place of overflow
That's
and
right.
being able to serve everybody around you, under you, to the side of you, right? And have that's such a, it's just a difference in like literally like scarcity and abundance, right?
100%. 100%.
Super basic. And so as I'm listening to this, and Shannon, I know me and you, we could jam for a while, but as I'm listening to this, I know there's people in our community, there's people that are listening to this, they go, Shannon, I hear you, right? I get it. They want to be a great mother. They want to be a great father. They want to be there for they want to go to the, be a great friend when they need to be. They want to be a great entrepreneur, but yet they find themselves hustling all the time. They find themselves burning out when they don't want to burn out. You know what I mean? And they go, hey, I love the expansive thinking. I want to incorporate all these things in my life, but how does one go about doing it and kind of shift their thinking from, sacrificing for their family, for their business, for, sacrificing their health to actually living and stepping into that more completeness? Does it make sense?
Yeah, 100%. It all starts in the mind. It all starts in the mind. As I like to say, everything is created twice. First here.
Yeah.
Everything that you see, from the couch that you're sitting on to the table behind you to the vase to the headphones, all of that at one point did not exist at all. And someone saw it here first. Right? That little paper organizer behind you, at one point in history, that didn't exist. And someone was like, yeah, what if you could take these papers and you could organize? They saw it in their mind and they thought about it and they believed about it enough to that one day they created it. That is how everything gets created. It starts first here. The reason that most people can't have an expanded life or live into expanded leadership is because simply they don't believe it's possible. They don't believe it's possible. They believe they have to sacrifice. They believe it. They believe that that's the only way to do it. And so that puts them in a box. So you have to be willing to let that go and say, okay, you don't even have to jump to say it is possible. You could just say, well, if it was possible, what would that look like? Could that be possible for me? I love to ask that question because there's it's like we have no idea what's possible. Yeah. So when you ask someone, well, could it be possible?
Right.
And they say no, it's like, come on, man. The peak of human potential is like far beyond what we even think it is. And you don't think that this little thing that we're talking about right now is possible? Like, come on. Yeah. And what's great about that question is it allows people's bigness to come out. Jay, do you believe that it could be possible? And that causes you to shift, to go from here to a different part of your thinking or a different part of your heart that's like bigger, right? That's like, yeah, right?
100%.
It asks a question that forces a different part of you to participate. You get that?
Yeah. Well, what I was just thinking is like a lot of times people are thinking of these questions. They go, hey, that sounds really great, but it's not possible for me because I don't have a team. You know what I mean? Or I don't have the money, Shannon. I'm not like you guys or whatever it is, right? The story that they tell themselves. But what I love about your question is you're not getting them to look at their history. Right. You're not getting them to live in the past and saying, is this a possibility for you? That's right. It's what could be possible.
That's right.
Can you imagine it?
Totally.
Right? And let's just play a game, right?
Right. Can you even go there? Because you can't get there unless you can't actually physically go there until you can go there here first. So you just have to just toy with it at first. Just even play with it and say, yeah, but could it be possible? Hey, listen, I realize you got 8 kids and you got 4 jobs and you got this and you got that. I understand all of that. And all of that included, how could it be possible? To get them out of the story, to get them out of them being a victim, to get them out of being their special or whatever, to just get them into the possibility of how could it be possible, totally shifts how they're thinking. And remember, It's a question that requires a different version of them to come out to play. That's the key. So it's not a question that engages their smallness and validates that. It's a question that basically devalidates their smallness and really like speaks to their bigness and says, yeah, hey, I hear that small stuff, but let's talk to that big version of you. What does that version have to say? And then when you ask a big question, you can only get big answers. And so it's like, if you give it, if obviously that small side will try to come in, but if you can just sit with it long enough, like Einstein said, it's not that I'm so smart. It's just that I stay with the problems longer. And so if you're willing to just go there, very often you can.
It's scary though.
Of course.
It's scary. Like, because even as I don't know if anybody watching this, we have a few viewers on, but as I'm going through it and I'm thinking, well, okay, what could be possible, right? And you start kind of, you allow your vision to expand, right? You allow yourself to step into that life. And I go, whew, it's a little nerve-wracking. I don't know if I'm ready. Shit, I don't know if I'm ready, right?
Let me ease your mind a little bit.
Sure. Yeah.
You'll never be ready. Readiness, hey, this is a writer downer right here. Yeah. Readiness is not a state of being, it is a decision. Because remember, we're hedging a bet. Let's say that you and I came up with like what's next for you, and we got super clear about it. And it was bold and it was big, but we were super clear about it. Okay? And if I could snap my fingers and put you in that atmosphere, whether it's on stage in front of 10,000 people or working with some client at a super high level or whatever, right? The question is, do you have the capacity to go there? Yes or no?
Yes.
Totally.
100%.
So maybe your history, maybe you've never gone there, and that's what you're basing the fear off of. Well, I can't do that because I've never done it. But just because you've never done it doesn't mean you can't do it. It simply means that you haven't done it. That's it. And what I find is when given the opportunity, people do rise to the occasion. They do. There's this quote in the peak performance world that says people do not rise to the occasion. They default to their level of training, which to a degree is true. However, you have these unsung heroes, average Joe, walking down the street, nothing special about him. All of a sudden, the house is on fire, and there's his neighbor's daughter is in the upstairs window, and she's crying, and the house is about to collapse. There's no one else around. What does he do?
He goes and tries to do his best, right?
He runs into the house. He doesn't even think about it. He runs into the house. He runs up the stairs. He grabs the girl and he saves her. He has no fire rescue training, none of that. When the moment comes, we rise to the occasion. We see it time and time and time again. A couple of years ago, there was a small helicopter that crashed in the backyard of this suburban town. And this woman's daughter got pinned underneath it. And there was gas coming out of the helicopter, and it was on fire. You can imagine.
Yeah.
The mom sees this. She runs out to the backyard, and something happened. She grabs the helicopter and lifts the helicopter off the daughter, grabs the daughter, runs out to the street. The whole thing blows up.
Wow.
Now, that's not possible. That's not physically possible. But when the moment happens where there is no other option, you do rise to the occasion. You might not see it a lot in everyday life because the circumstance doesn't have enough gravity. But if there's enough gravity in that moment, if I put you on stage in front of 10,000 people, please believe you would rise to the occasion. You might feel some butterflies behind stage before you stepped out, but I'm telling you, the moment that you got out there, you rise to the occasion. So it's betting. You're betting that, you know what, I might not feel ready as this version of me, but if I give myself the opportunity to actually go there, when I show up, I'll perform.
Can you talk to, first of all, I love this, and I'm a huge believer in it's almost always perspective, right? You know, it's either too scary or too daunting. You change a few elements, keep everything the same. All of a sudden, that person could lift the helicopter up, right? All of a sudden, that person can run into a burning building. You know what I mean? Because if you change some of the elements there, but here's a question for you, kind of to follow up on that. How often, as you, I mean, I know you work with private clients and your coaching, but how do you encourage them to kind of, you know, because it's a scary thing, right? So like, how do you encourage them to kind of keep going at it? Is there, I don't want to say like a recommended, you know, prescription of, you know, every single day do X amount of minutes. I don't want to necessarily go there, but how do you kind of essentially practice expanding your comfort zone with that, right?
Yeah, totally. Well, it really comes down to what I said, which is intentionally creating opportunities for you to expand, right? Opportunities for you to be that bigger version of yourself don't happen by accident.
Yeah.
The majority of the world is, well, especially the United States, overweight, right? Typically like not thrilled about their job, not super pumped about their life, right? Excuse me. And it's because most of them are just waiting for something to happen. They're waiting for that dream job to show up. They're waiting for that dream relationship to show up. They're waiting for something to happen to them, forgetting all the while that life doesn't happen to them. They happen to life. They are the reason for everything. You know, there's this concept out there of like things can happen to you, things can happen for you, or things can happen through you. Yeah. Well, I don't really believe in that things happen to you. And I actually don't believe that things happen through you, because I don't believe that we're like cosmic puppets in some show, right? I believe that we are the creators. And so if we want to be bigger, then we get to create the opportunity for us to step into to be bigger. And so for my people, the people that I work with, it is about consistently creating opportunities for them to consciously create environments or situations that get them out of their comfort zone, that require them to be bigger.
Yeah. Yeah. And I absolutely love that. So for people that are just tuning in, I want to say a few things. If you do have any question, if you are a leader in your business, maybe in your family, in your community, or you have something specific to your situation that you want to maybe ask, this might be the time to be able to write that in, and we'll see if we can actually tackle some of these questions. And I know it's rare to kind of get Shannon on here, and so we do appreciate his time. But I love that you bring this up, because I think it's so relevant, you know, for leaders that are trying to figure out whether it's in the online space, whether they're building their business of their dreams. They're trying to create the life of their dreams to some degree, you know, and they have to figure out these things. They have to make these quote unquote judgment calls, right, on what it is that they're going to spend their time on, who is it they're going to spend their time with. And I think your book, Expand, which we'll link to, which I know comes out in about a week. Oh, look, we got a nice close up of it. Walk us through a little bit about the book, and maybe it's just the process, because you told me off record this was your second book.
Yeah. Right.
And you know, I was saying, like, almost jokingly, that I know a lot of authors have, you know, spent a lot, you know, some people launch a book and they go, it's the best thing ever. A lot of people, they launch a book and go, that might be the last one, you know? So walk us through just a little bit of you putting the book together and some of the behind the scenes on that.
Yeah. Well, I created a methodology for book writing, which is very different than how most authors write books.
Yeah.
And when I wrote my first book, I knew it was going to be a big body of work. My first book is like 340 pages. So I knew there was a lot of content, and I physically wrote a lot of it, but I realized I somehow came across this software called Dragon Naturally Speaking. Okay. And it is a voice to text software. So you speak and it types.
Love it.
And it's beautiful for really two reasons. Number one, because you speak about 3 times faster than you type no matter how fast you type.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as getting a large amount of content out, you can type it or you can speak it, right? And I'm into efficiency. So I thought, wow, if I can speak 3 times faster than I can type, I might as well speak it rather than type it. So that helped get a large amount of the work done in a very short amount of time. But what I started to notice as I would go back and read the writing was that it read more conversationally.
Right, because you're speaking it,
Because
literally.
I'm speaking it.
Yeah.
So some books really sound like very thought leadery, kind of heady, like someone sat down and thought about what they were going to say.
Right.
Rather than just said it.
Mm.
And so and then once the book got out there, I got a lot of great feedback about the book. And one of the things that was very prevalent in all the feedback was, this book sounds like a conversation. It sounds like you're talking with me, not at me.
Mm.
And that actually, from how human beings are designed to learn, how your brain is literally wired to learn, that is much more efficient in how we learn. That's why the public school system kind of fails, because kids just sit there passively and people talk at them rather than engaging with them.
Mm.
And so this book, I did exactly the same thing, but I modified it, and I had someone who knows me and my content interview me, and we recorded the interview and then had that interview transcribed, and then that transcription got put into the format of the book. So that methodology allowed for this book to be written and completed in 5 months.
Yeah. And that's pretty amazing. Like, it's almost unheard of, right?
Yeah, I mean, it is unheard of in the author world. I mean, anyone can write an ebook in a weekend that's like, kind of garbage. Sure. But this book, there's a lot of stuff in here that I'm very proud of. There's new levels of my perspective and leadership dynamics and things that just are very powerful. And so I share that because it's important for people to hear that, because I believe in this new era that we're moving towards. It's really about coming from a place of being whole, right? Being a leader that is whole and not having to sacrifice. But I also believe in leaning into more of being a magician rather than a mule, right?
Okay.
Anyone
tell
can
us a little bit about that.
I believe that hard work is necessary no matter what.
Yeah.
However, I believe that there is a whole reservoir of magic within people that for the most part lies dormant. Because they rely so much on hustle and grind and hard work that they downplay their magic, right? 5 months to create this in most people's eyes is magic. Like, how the heck do you do that? Like a book that's truly excellent.
Yeah.
How do you do that in 5 months? That seems that requires some magic. Well, that's the point. I believe that people can create from magic. It's just they haven't accessed it yet. They just haven't gone there. And so the whole idea is to create, for me personally, the whole idea is to create things in the world that are really awesome, but then tell people the behind the scenes of how it was created so that they can look at that and go, wow, if Shannon wrote a book in 5 months and it's a solid book and he really did it with excellence, maybe it's possible for me to lean into more of my magic, right? I believe there's this side of us that's more creative, that's more resourceful, that's more innovative than we think.
Yeah.
We just don't tap into it on a regular basis. So we default to that hustle, that grind. Like, we've proven that you can hustle and grind your way to the top. We've proven that you can hustle and grind a book out in a weekend or in 2 years, however you want to approach it.
Sure.
We've proven that way works. Let's test something new. Let's test our creativity. Let's test our resourcefulness. Let's see how much we can create with as little action as possible. and see what happens.
I love
right?
that. I love that. I've never heard that, magician versus the mule. And so that is very, very cool. We do have a question here. Oh my goodness, I did not imagine that it would take up the entire screen. But let me give you. I'm going to read it through. I know people hopefully on the. How do I get it to hide? Okay, so Tori has a question. She goes, my question is, her main job is raising their 15-year-old daughter. And Shannon, I know, I just want to be respectful of your time, but
Yeah,
we'll
of course.
the question and
Yep.
let's see kind of where it takes us. Main job, raising 15-year-old daughter, taking care of the house and all that entails. I find it a bit of a conundrum to take the time, while I'm also passionate about being a great mother. Our daughter will only be home with us for 3 more years before she goes off to college, and she wants to maximize the time that she has together. However, my husband and her started the business. They want to put tons of energy into the new business because it's a business geared towards helping and teaching veterans how to find successful, post-military career. So she feels a bit overwhelmed, essentially, right? Yep. She writes any suggestions whatsoever, trying to balance being a great family person, a great mother, as well as the business success. And any thoughts or, suggestions on that, Shannon?
Totally. So this is absolutely where 2 things, in my opinion, get to happen. The first thing is purely mindset. You just have to begin to believe that it's possible. It is impossible, and I don't use that word lightly. It is impossible to do something you don't believe is possible. You cannot accidentally do something that you think is impossible. It has never happened ever in the history of ever. So first and foremost, you at least have to start with either A, it is possible for me to be able to do some of these things that I'm wanting to do, or at very least, how could it be? How could it be possible for me to do that? To begin to just open up the possibility. Yeah. Because I could give you a bunch of tactics and strategies of like what you should literally do with your time. Right. But that's not going to matter if you can't go there in your mind. If you can't really believe it's possible, those tactics and strategies will not get you anywhere. Yeah. So, Tori, where I would encourage you to start is here, to believe that it's possible. Because probably up till this point, you haven't even believed that it's possible, which is probably why it hasn't happened yet, right? It kind of makes sense. Yeah. So to just begin to believe that either it is possible or how could it be? Start there. Yeah. And then the next place I would go after that is, okay, there's a lot of things you can't change. You can't change that you have a daughter. You can't change that life kind of is what it is. How do you get creative and use your time creatively or resourcefully? Right? Maybe how do you include your daughter with some of the things that you're working on? Or how do you create quantum moments, for example, where you can create some time with your daughter? You can do some things with her that are really valuable, because I know you're wanting to really get a lot out of this time. Yeah. Well, sometimes richness doesn't mean this. It can mean this as long as that moment is very powerful. Right? Like I could spend 3 hours chatting with Jay about the weather and the richness of that conversation would kind of be like this. Yeah. Or we could spend 40 minutes diving into really the essence of this new era of leadership and what that means and what that looks like. And there's this much richness in this much time. Yeah. So you can shift that. You can be open and creative with how you're creating time for your business. You might say, well, Shannon, I don't have 4 hours for my business. Great. 30 minutes. If you are really on fire, if you're really creative, if you're really resourceful, in that 30 minutes can take you sometimes further than that 4 hours. Right. Because very often people in that 4 hours are like, they're sub-narrating. Yeah. They're trying to do the work, but they're beating themselves up. They're like, oh, I should be spending time with my daughter. I'm not exactly sure what to do right now. So they're kind of making a little bit of progress, kind of, sort of, right? So that 4 hours, the efficiency of that 4 hours is pretty minimal, where 30 minutes, if you're totally clear what to do, how to do it, you are focused, you can get a lot done. So Tori, I'd encourage you to do that, to play with that and see see what you come up with.
So Shannon, I totally agree. Love the mindset piece and love, incorporating it actually in everything, right? So Tori said, excellent. Thank you so much. Deslin said she loves and appreciate all the wisdom being shared. And Shannon, wanted to be respectful of your time. Really always appreciate having you on. But I'd love for you to end maybe on this piece, or maybe if you have something that comes up. But you touched on, the quote unquote impossible, right? It's impossible to achieve something that you don't necessarily believe to be possible. One of the things I learned from you is the difference between like the intention versus expectation. I'd love for you to maybe just expand a little bit maybe on that, and maybe we can wrap up that way.
Sure. Two of my absolute favorite words are expectation and inevitability, or inevitable.
Inevitable, right?
Expectation is, you can hope that you're going to have a great day. You can hope that your business is going to be successful. You can hope that you're going to leave a legacy at the end of the day. Or you can expect it. And the different, as Tony says, you don't get what you want, you get what you expect.
Yeah.
And if you look at results, in my opinion, is the ultimate indicator, is the ultimate laboratory. All you have to do is look at people's results, and it is a very direct indicator of what they expect, not what they want. There's a lot of people in the world that want a Mercedes.
Yeah.
How many of them actually have it?
Very little.
This many of them want it. This many of them have it.
Yeah.
Why? What's the difference? The people that have it expected to get it. Expect means I will experience nothing less than. I will experience nothing less than. I will have a Mercedes and I expect nothing less. Now, Mercedes is synonymous with whatever it is you want in life. Happiness, money, career, relationship, fulfillment, fill in the blank. Yeah. You will not get it until you expect it. Because when you expect it, you have no other option, no other reality is permissible to you than that. When you expect it, the people who walk into a room and expect respect, get it. The people who hope they get it typically don't. Right?
It's true. Well, you think about how many people make New Year's resolutions, right? Or how many times has anybody ever said, this, I'm going to change my life. I'm going to change. These are the 10 habits, Shannon, that I'm going to change tomorrow. Yep. Right? And their intention is amazing. Right. Everybody's intention is to want to do good. One of my favorite quotes is that gets forgot about so often. The path to hell is paved with good intentions. Yeah. Good intentions are meaningless. They're meaningless, right? The four or five love languages, that book, genius. Yeah. You can intend to love someone with every fiber of your being, but if you're not speaking their love language, it doesn't work. It's not compatible, right? You can intend to drive a Ferrari 120 miles an hour, but if you don't put the key in the ignition, all of that intention doesn't mean anything. And so intention's great, but you have to couple it with expectation. And expectation is what leads to that word inevitable. If whatever you want, if you couple it with expectation, then it becomes inevitable. And I want you to let that sink in for those of you that are listening. What if I told you that whatever it is that you want in life, a relationship, a career, a house, a vacation, just a life, whatever it is that you want, what if I told you that could be inevitable? What if I told you that could be inevitable, and all that you needed to do in order to make it inevitable was to expect it with 100% certainty starting now? That's it. And so it's beautiful because so many people play this game of like, well, I wonder if, or I hope, right? Rather than, no, it's absolutely inevitable. And I know that it is because I expect it. So it's not like wishful thinking. It's not like it's inevitable, but there's not really anything. It's not grounded in anything.
No, I know it's inevitable, because if I expect it and I am willing to experience nothing less, then there is no other probability. Because I'm a science guy at the end of the day. I'm a mathematician at the end of the day. I'm a big dreamer, but I like to be able to bring it down to earth, right? Because that's where we live. That's where the reality is.
Yeah.
As Halliday says in the new movie Ready Player One, he says, reality is the only thing that's real. Which is to say that the only thing that we have control over is this moment right now. And so if we bring expectation into this moment and into the next moment and into the next moment, if we bring that high level of expectation, we allow nothing less into our reality. Even if what we get in this moment doesn't match that, if we continue to hold that, eventually reality begins to shift, right? It's like the person who dates someone who is not good to them. You know, you see men and women do this all the time. They date these jerks, and then they break up, and their friends are like, "Oh, you can do better, right?"
Right.
But then they end up with someone again and again and again and again that's kind of a jerk, until one day something changes, and their self-worth goes up, and their expectation for what they deserve becomes unshakable. It's a new standard. That's typically when Mr. Right or Mrs. Right comes along.
Shows up. Yeah.
Right? So as long as you hold that, then eventually the universe, God, whatever you want to think, rearranges the world to create that, because everything gets created twice, but only for as long as you are willing to maintain it. That's the challenge. Most people are like, I want the Mercedes, and they want it and they want it and they want it, and then it doesn't show up, and they're like, well, I guess I'm okay driving my Honda.
Right.
And their expectation
drops. Yeah.
And then the universe can only give you what it is that you're truly committed to. So if there is absolute 100% unshakable resolve, then the universe has no choice. God has no choice.
Yeah.
But if you give even a little bit of ounce of doubt, then God, the universe, is like, well, I can't work with that.
I love this, because it's kind of like, what version of your life, right? What version of the truth would you want to be inevitable? Right? Because if you choose, it's just about choosing it over and over and over again. The second you don't believe it, it drops. That becomes the new inevitability, right? And then all of a sudden, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, and people are like, oh, this always happens, right? And they get into that cycle. Shannon, I really appreciate you coming on, sharing some wisdom with us, man. Every single time we talk, I get some new ideas, some new breakthroughs. And I'm not joking, because there's a lot of noise in personal development, right? You know this. And when people say high performance or getting that extra edge, and there's only so many people I listen to, and I encourage people to socially stalk you. But where can they pick up a copy of Expand? Where can they learn more about some of the work that you do?
Yeah. Well, what I would suggest is you can follow me on Facebook. And next week, I'm going to be announcing on Facebook the launch of the book. So
sweet.
You can follow along from there. And then when the time is right, you can jump on it.
Well, hey, I really love that, we were able to come on, do another part 2. And I like this session a lot, because we went deep into some of those things. I love to leave our audience, anybody who's listening to this on the podcast, on the replay or whatever, maybe like a challenge. And I know you kind of posed some really good questions already, but what is maybe like a challenge or an idea maybe you can leave them with, so that maybe they can take action on that and maybe report back, and kind of see, some of the results that, that they kind of had.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks for your comment, Tori. It was great to have you on here today. I'm glad that I could provide some value for you. I think really it comes down to, what is the thing in your life that you really want that for some reason you haven't been able to get yet? What's the thing that you want in your relationship, in your career, in your friendships, in your whatever? What's that big thing? What's that thing that really pulls at you, that maybe you've been making excuses for, or making stories for why you can't have it? And my challenge to you is, how can you flip that and make the stories and make the mindset about how you can have it. And not only how you can have it, but how you can have it through magic rather than being a mule, right? So maybe you want to build a business, but you're like, oh, that takes a lot of work. It has to be hard. Maybe I want to write a book and it takes too long.
Right.
5 months.
5 months, ladies and gentlemen, 5 months.
It doesn't have, my whole reason for existing is to show people that everything that they want, whether it's a feeling, but people come to me so often and they want things in life. And when we really get down to what it is that they really want, they don't want things, they want feelings. They want to feel significant. They want to feel whole. They want to feel seen. And they think that if they build a business or make $1 million or have a Lamborghini, that maybe somehow that'll do that, but it never does. Right?
Yeah.
So whether it's intangible or tangible, I want you to realize that what you want is far more available to you than you think if you're willing to embrace your magic. If you're willing to allow it to be easy. It can be hard. We've proven that. We've proven it. We don't need to prove that anymore. I want you to prove to yourself how it can be easy, how it can be fun, how you can engage more of that magic so that you can create from that place instead. So take that thing, whatever it is that you've been wanting, and say to yourself, stop buying into the stories of why you can't have it. Begin to at least ask yourself, well, how could that be possible? And if it was, what would my life be like? And how can I create it through ease and grace rather than hustle and grind?
Big questions, but I love what you said. Big questions give you big answers, right? And so it's are you willing to ask it? Tori had some amazing things to say. She really appreciates your thoughts and maybe answer her question live. Yeah. Chris says everything is possible. I get it. So really appreciate everyone for being on here. Shannon, really appreciate you, brother. So much love. And really glad maybe we'll have you on here again when you write your next book, maybe in 4 months' time. Who knows? Right. But hey, appreciate all of you. And let's see who takes the challenge and let's see what people are able to create. So let us know. Shannon, love you, brother. We'll talk to you next time, man.
All right. See you soon.